Welcome back to the Manage to Win podcast. My guest today is Mike Estep. He is the Chief Client Officer at Blackpoint Cyber. As a disclaimer, I recently became an employee there. Mike asked me to join his team in the strategic sales group. And Mike is great at what he does, which is build relationships. So I asked him on the podcast, will you please come on and talk about how you build relationships with people in business, how that spills over into your personal life, maybe a little bit, but really from a business perspective, how do you engage with people? Why have you had so much success? Mike has some great tips. Let's dive in and hear what he has to say. Hey, Mike, welcome to the show. It's kind of funny to have you on the show because full disclosure to the audience, I am now a Blackpoint Cyber full-time employee. I got my team running Manage to Win. I do this for fun, quite frankly, in my spare time, which I think is going to be less and less and maybe just evaporate altogether. But Mike is my boss, but also a friend, former client. And I asked him on because, Mike he knows a lot of people in the industry, the MSP space, IT MSP space, but there's a lot to learn from Mike on what some people would call relationship marketing or relationship selling. And it's really just liking people and having relationships. But Mike, would you give people a little rundown on your background so they know what your experience, where you're coming from?
Sure. So once again, Dave, thanks for having me. I love doing these things with you when we get a chance. So my background is I've basically grown up in the managed services space, probably before we called it managed services. So joined a company in Atlanta, Georgia in the very late 80s. And would help it transition from a typewriter business to a computer company, from a computer company to a network company, and basically spent the majority of my business career inside of this one brand called Becca, and for roughly 35 years. And I'll kind of talk about, where relationships were there. But what I would tell you is that it became, it didn't start as a family business, became very much family driven. We built it to be a very successful organization. And I guess 2020-ish, I actually turned it over to my son, who would be CEO. All the rest of the kids work there, by the way. But, this son, actually kind of the funny story is David met this young man many years before when he was helping me coach to rebuild this company after the recession and said, your son would make a great CEO. He didn't know how right he was at the time. And so I would get together with a couple friends of mine. We would build a holding organization that would buy my original company, their original companies, and we would build this organization called Blue Alliance, which was the idea, once again, was about relationships and about trying to get rid of all the silos that each one of us owners had. And we weren't really interested at that point in time in transacting with private equity or bankers or things to that nature. That day finally surfaced in 2023, I guess, at this point. And, I got a phone call from John Murchison, who's the CEO of Blackpoint. And he's like, this is a fishing expedition. And by the way, the reason I went to join John was relationship. He called me and he's like, hey, listen, we're trying to fix all the things that we should do better for MSP owners. Would you come help us do that? And so I started as VP of community, trying to build the MSP community, and have since graduated to this Chief Client Officer role, which still is largely about relationships. I mean, getting out, meeting people, and trying to listen to problems. And I guess selling's part of the job, just because if you listen enough, you'll learn the things you should do, the things people want, and then try to deliver those inside of Blackpoint's what I'm really focused on for the next few years.
But, that's what you've always been, a problem solver. And I almost laughed when you said a fishing expedition, because in Hire the Best, my hiring system, where we base it on a pro sports team analogy. So, you have a hiring tryout, you got workouts, you got players trying out, hiring coaches. But we quote the coach of the Miami Heat, who talked about fishing for whales.
Right.
And the names escaped me, but that's funny. But I think that one of the things that there's a lot that speaks volumes about your good character, Mike. But one of the things is, I remember I talked to you, I think after you took the position with Blackpoint, but you talked about, I don't know how it came up, the toughest thing for you at Blue Alliance was I think you had one company that you acquired and it didn't work out. And you were devastated.
Devastated. I mean,
yeah, you were just beside yourself because you care about people so much.
Yeah. I recently did somebody asked me to speak on M&A, and you learn in the M&A world, as I affectionately, you learn that there aren't really, this is a little bit out of context, but there aren't good people and bad people. It's everybody's really good. Everybody has great intent. And we had bought a friend's business, somebody I'd known for a long, long time. And we were just, we struggled to help the business transition. And yeah, it killed me. I mean, it was everybody. I believe that the essence of all people is good. Now, once again, I know there bad people exist in the world. So, to those listening, say, I get it, but I believe to a large percentage, the majority of the world are good people. They have good intent, and we had a great intent when we were buying businesses. And yeah, it devastated me that we couldn't help it be successful because we believed we could. I mean, in the end, we always believed we could help somebody be successful. And it wasn't, once again, I considered it a failure for myself, not necessarily for the business or the previous owner, just because I couldn't help but transition. So to me, it's always about the people, David. I still have one son left in the original brand here in Atlanta. I was down there the other day and visiting with them. And listen, people are when we look back, it's what we're really going to remember. Once again, kind of talking about you, I met you, at a peer group meeting called Opta. I mean, long time ago at this point. And we started that relationship, and we both just kind of kept it. It was deliberate. I mean, I think today there are so many relationships that, they come and they go, and you have to be deliberate when you want a relationship because it's hard these days. We used to see people all the time. Now so many people are remote. You're only together for events or things to that nature. And listen, screens are cool, but at some point in time, shaking somebody's hand, giving them a hug, to me is very important.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I was talking with Bob Andrews of CompuLog up in Reading yesterday, and he's already been a Blackpoint partner. I just said, so what's it like? What do they do good? What do they do bad? He goes, oh man, they're our best partner. He said, the thing is, when I call Blackpoint, and he said, there's been 2 times I've called them and said, hey, you guys, you need to change this or whatever it was. He said, they always hear me out. They always respond. They always follow up. And in those 2 instances, they made the changes that I requested. But he said, we love working with them. So it's that relationship piece.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I tell people all the time, David, that I love our industry because it's still about the people. When we were a Blackpoint partner, because we were also a partner inside of Becca and Blue Alliance and our brands, people listened, people understood what the challenges were, and they sincerely wanted to help. And by the way, that's many vendors in our space. I mean, I've been around for enough years, and I joke with people all the time, there are so many, like I'll pick on cell phone providers. I've been a certain cell phone provider client for a really long time, but you get a better deal when you're not their client than when you are their client. And, it always kind of bewildered me. Why wouldn't you honor somebody who's been a client for 20 plus years versus the new guy? And John and Blackpoint, and they really listen to that. And, I keep, once again, one of the conversations you and I had is they truly want to help the people who they're already touching every day. Yeah, we would like more, but making a difference in somebody's life, especially when it comes to security, is very important. And it doesn't, in the wild, wild world we now live in, that knowing you can pick up the phone and talk to somebody that is going to genuinely care is, well, it's more unique than it should be, but it's unique in that right now today, I could call certain vendors, and not necessarily in MSP world, but in the especially in home world, and somebody take 5 days to get back to me. I mean, I want to talk to somebody. I call you, answer the phone. So yeah, it's important to us. And by the way, that ain't going to change anytime soon. I mean, AI is really cool stuff. And listen, we're investing heavily in it, but it's to make our people better, not necessarily to make us less contactable.
No, and it was one of the things I really like about Blackpoint is that, when there is an issue, the SOC deals with it and then calls and talks. But let's stay on track here. So relationship marketing, selling. I had a guy on the show a couple episodes ago or so where he called it referral selling because he felt that was more professional. Relational sounded a little too soft for him. But how do you do that? You brought up we're on screens. I mean, we're on screens now. but how, and then you got the AI piece, which you also brought up. And, AI drives me nuts when I'm calling into a vendor and they're giving me a bot, whether it's on a chat or whether it's otherwise. Whoa, man. So how do you keep the relationship piece going that you want to, assuming you want to be sincere, and there are people who don't want that, but you want to be sincere and you really want the relationship to continue, and you utilize the technology, but you don't use it in the wrong way where all of a sudden somebody receives something and they think,
yeah, he didn't write this.
Yeah.
He didn't write this. Well, I guess for me, David, so first, I mean, whether you referral relationship, to me, everything's a relationship. I mean, once again, one of the people who impressed a lot on my life when I was young and growing up was a gentleman by the name of Harvey McKay. And Mr. McKay always talked about the 66 things you should know about every client, prospect, employee, and you should genuinely invest in that. And I did, and I still do today. I mean, so I would just, to everyone who's listening, I would tell you, be genuine. There's nothing wrong. Like, once again, I'm a huge fan of specifically Microsoft Copilot to take notes for meetings because I actually think it helps me listen better because I'm not trying to write while I am listening. So I do think there are places for AI, but it still starts with you have to be willing to listen. And, once again, one of the things I've learned now through all these years is that many people listen for what they want to hear versus listening with the purpose of hearing. So fortunately, I've been married a very long time, and I've been very well educated by my wife, Sherry, that you need to listen for what I'm saying, not for what you want to hear. And so I would just tell everybody, listen, be genuine, make an effort, whether it's screen or not, make an effort in having purposeful conversations. Don't have to be business. I mean, you can talk to people about things, I used to say, listen, business is business and personal, but now almost 40 years into my career, what I've realized is it's all personal. I mean, everybody who's still hanging out with me today, business or not, has become my friend, and we share things. I spend more time probably with people at MSP events than I do even at home at this point, because I spend most of my time at home with my kids. So I would just say, be genuine, be authentic, listen with a purpose, and use technology to help you keep track of things. Like, once again, in the long time ago, I kept a little traditional Rolodex that I would write down. This is David. This is his kids' names. This is his wife's name. This is his favorite football team. Now it's very easy to kind of capture some of that. And I don't really bring it up in conversation, but it gives you a chance to tell people you really care when once again, if I know somebody's a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan, I don't happen to be that, but a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan, and you can say, congratulations, you won it. Or I've got a buddy who's a huge Notre Dame fan, and I was like, congratulations on the success. And it makes people know that you truly were paying attention and being genuine.
Yeah, so I want to stay with that purposeful for a moment. Okay, and by the way, for the audience, as Mike has indicated, our relationship goes back, I don't know how long, at least probably 15 years. But I have spent time with he and Sherry. I've spent time with his company. It is very rare that you see a couple that can work together in business. Now, Louis and Ronnie Alvarez Technology Group, and Salinas do it. I know a few other ones that do it very well. But Mike and Sherry also had, I don't know how many of your kids, like almost like all of your kids, or
all the kids work. All the kids came back and worked at one point. I mean, and I like to tell people, listen, being my sons, my daughter, and by the way, my son-in-law as well, all came back into the business. It was very difficult because, I had much higher expectations for them than many.
Just like father.
Yeah. I mean, it was, but we look like, once again, I don't know necessarily where you might be going with this. I'd tell you that when Sherry and I talk about what we miss after we sold the companies, it's that, because it gave us a lot in common. I mean, we could talk about, you talked about life, but you talked about the business, and the business was like another kid, and everybody kind of bought into it. And, so we were very fortunate. What makes it even more unique, David, is we employed a number of kids that our kids went to school and college with. So at one point in time, there was a really unique count of, like, I'll say there were eight to 10 people who worked for us who I'd known since they were 4 years old. But it was special. It was fun. It was, we wouldn't trade it for the moon. I mean, we are where we are because we had those times, and we do miss them, but it's purposeful connection both to, once again, I think some of our employees would tell you that they felt like they were our family. I believe that we didn't separate family from employee. To us, it was all one thing.
Yeah, and I never got the impression there was any bias there. But my point in bringing it up was that you did something a lot of people can't pull off, and that is that you had family, all of them, working with you, including the in-law, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, and yet you still all enjoyed each other while you were doing it. And
they told me they did. Yeah, at least they told me they did. Well, I've been fortunate enough now to even have one of my sons has now joined us at Blackpoint. I mean, it doesn't work for me, but I think he enjoys the journey he loves it from a standpoint of, he loves being with people. He loves participating. He has a lot of the same skills and traits that I think make special leaders in the world, and that he truly cares about the people.
So now let's shift gears back again to our audience. So if you're going to be purposefully listening, then you've got to understand, and if you need to pause for a moment before you go into a conversation, not just to check some notes, but let me give you an analogy. So when I go see my doctor or my dentist, if they're really good, they will look at the notes on me before they walk in, and they will remember my kids, what are not. The last time I went and saw my dermatologist, I have the 1-year dermatology thing going on, and he's a great guy, and he takes nature photography, particularly of like owls. He has some amazing photos, like an owl that's in a tree that blends in. You can barely see it. But he walked in and said, "Hey, last time we met, I have a note here that it was like your 3rd wedding anniversary. And is that correct?" So he makes it kind of fun.
Yeah.
Because he's sincere. That's my point. You can take all the notes you want in the world. If you don't care about the other person, then you don't need to listen to the rest of this conversation. Okay? If you're just in it for you, it's all about you, baby, it's not going to make any difference. But he truly likes people. Yeah, and then it's like, it's my 4th anniversary. Well, congratulations. Way to go. And so purposefully listening, like you brought up, it's not waiting for your turn to talk. It's how can I help? Where's there a connection here? And getting people to talk, but that you're actually sincerely following. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, David, I mean, listen, it's in the end, what I tell people all the time, what I've, helped my kids with is listen with the idea of not necessary, once again, learned things over the years. Sometimes you just need to listen to listen. I mean, that's what helps somebody. They just want you to listen. I mean, they're not necessarily, it took me a long time to learn this trait of they're interested in me listening. They're not interested in my version of what I think they should have done. So you got to learn.
Well, I think that's a typical guy thing.
Yeah, you got to learn that about yourself. But what I would tell you is you want to be purposeful. And once again, you use the word care. You got to care. It doesn't matter the thing you're going to talk about caring about as much as you've learned what's important to somebody. So therefore you can talk to them about it. I mean, it's not something you do just once. It's repetitive. I mean, you can't talk to somebody once a year and expect all this to kind of just flow. It's after you've talked to, you mentioned, I have a dentist appointment on, Thursday, and I've been going to the same dentist for 25 years. And, he asked about the kids. Does he really remember the kids' names, or did he look them up? I don't know. I mean, but sure seems like he remembers them, how's Justin doing? How's Katie doing? How's Will doing? And kind of the funny part is, like my oldest son, middle child, Will, he just had a root canal. Oh, by the way, with the same guy. And you're like, well, he remembered that. So I just think, once again, back to what we said before, I think people today, want to do that. You just have to be willing to take the time to do it, take the time to learn about other people. And then, once again, the idea of listen with the intent of, I'm trying to absorb and I'm trying to learn something from everything you say. I love listening to you because I know that there will always be bits of wisdom that I can suck in and pull and help me as I go forward. So in business, it's much harder because at the end of the day, you're trying to figure out probably how to, for MSPs, how do I sell my next service? What I will tell you is all of that comes if you take the time to truly listen to the people. Like one of the things I like to do personally is outside of let's take somebody I don't know before. I try to anticipate the questions I should be ready to ask them. If I'm going to meet with a client and I know that they're an engineering firm, I know the most common problems that engineers deal with. So be ready for good quality questions. Take the time. Don't just walk in and say, hey, listen, I'm here to sell you something. So would you buy something? Nobody wants that conversation anymore.
No, I think that's a huge one there for everybody. And it's very common for guys, problem solvers. Somebody says, oh, we're having this problem. You say, oh, well, have you tried this? Or maybe not even saying, have you tried this? Just say, well, here's what you should do. And you only got 10% of the iceberg you're looking at. But the questions, and I'm going to mention the flip side of what you're saying. Don't ask dumb questions. Don't think, oh, I got to ask questions. I got to fill the space. So, but like Mike says, if you pause before you go into the conversation, I mean, particularly if it's scheduled, you can think about it. What questions can I ask? They're going to help me understand what position these people are in. And I would agree, when you're having an initial conversation in particular, or even a follow-up conversation, first thing is the relationship.
Yep.
And if they like you, they're going to do business with you. My wife, Kelly, is in real estate. And she's not a grind it, just I'm going to sell 100 homes this year. But everyone she does business with, like you said, is her friend.
Yeah. They keep coming back.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So if you get the relationship, that's where it's really key. I actually talked to somebody this morning, and I had not talked with him in, 10 or 15 years in the industry. And I was actually surprised. He was sincerely really happy to talk with me. And this is a high-level guy. Okay? He's like, David, it's been too long. We connected and talked. And that's like, I got to stay in regular contact with this guy. This is a great guy.
Yeah.
And his former boss is. I haven't talked with him in, less time. Like 3 years, 4 years maybe, but still too long because they're just super people. And so with the technology side, we can use it to keep track of some information. And do you ever use it? I mean, it comes naturally to you, and you're so busy all the time. You probably can't do this, but does it ever make sense with certain people that you just put a reminder in your CRM or wherever you want to put it? Just, quarterly check-in, just reach out to this person and touch base.
Right. These days I'm probably more purposeful than that because I've learned that I forget things. So yeah, I use technology. I don't think I did that 20 years ago, but today I am very purposeful in making sure that I talk to people and check in on people. Once again, you and I have the same wisdom hairs these days in that, you learn to appreciate so much more when all of a sudden you have people that you've known for a really long time that you call friends who aren't there. And I mean, I literally, I'll once again, throwing out names. I mean, I literally reach out and talk to Michael Kraft, to the founder of Kraft Kennedy with P. Kennedy, at least once a month, if not every other week, because he always has some bit of advice I always go into it being excited to talk to people because I always believe it's, there's going to be some share, I took John to meet Michael, I don't know, it's probably 6 months ago now. And, in typical, Michael conversation at dinner, he looked at John and he was like, you can never have enough friends. So I wanted to meet you. And I was like, that's it. I mean, all of us can never have enough friends. I mean,
yeah.
And so I use technology. I'm a big user of tech to say, hey, listen, have I talked to this person lately? Once again, it's become a learned thing. Today, even, my wife knows, hey, listen, when are you talking to this person? Because everybody's like family to us. And so, yeah, I believe in the use of tech. Now what I don't, I try really hard, especially in people that I know, to never let AI type something for me, because I think I've developed, somebody would know really quickly, he didn't type this. So that's been my fear of it. Now it's easier with people who might not necessarily know who I am yet, but I still, once again, to me, that goes back to that authentic and genuine type.
Yeah.
I use AI for research. I use, once again, especially if I don't know somebody and I'm trying to figure out what are their interests, where do they go to college? That's just how I was raised. Those things, if you get a chance, like once again, you'll remember all this early day training. You walk into somebody's office, you sit down and you paid attention to what was on the wall. You learned what people read. You learned what school they went to, because those became your conversation items. It's much harder today because, once again, it's for you and I. I mean, we've actually talked about this. It's why I don't have a fake background. I don't have a fake background because I want to give somebody an equal opportunity moment to talk and learn about me.
It's funny you say that, because where that really hit home for me was an old movie with Basil Rathbone and some other great actors called The 7% Solution. It was about Sherlock Holmes. And the storyline was that Sherlock Holmes had developed a cocaine habit. So Dr. Watson tricked him to meet with Dr. Freud. Huh. And so Holmes shows up to meet with Freud, and he's ushered into his office, and Freud isn't there for about 5 seconds. And Holmes observes the office, and Freud walks in and he says, "Can you tell me who I am?" And then Holmes tells him exactly who he is, including the stuff no one else would know. It's like, well, you used to have a license or a degree, but now you don't have it because there's a place where there used to be a picture frame hung, but it's not there. And it was all from observing the room. And I've never forgotten it. So I found that to be so true with people. It tells you a lot about the individual. Even like I had a gal who worked for me years ago, and one time I had to stop by at her and her husband's house to drop something off. And I noticed there was nothing on the walls except for some paintings that were impersonal. I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Told me something about her or them. It's so very interesting. So what are we not covering? If we were talking to people what I'm hearing is a huge message here, which I agree with, is that I'm going to propose something. What I'm hearing is that if you want to succeed in selling today, it's not about bits and bytes. It's not about the CRM you use. It's not about the AI messaging or any other messaging you use or marketing. You have to deliver value, but the way you'll get there is being sincere in developing relationships and to just investing in relationships. Whether you are introverted or whether you are an extrovert, like I've got a couple guys I know who are massive extroverts and they are connectors. Michael Salazzo here, Dave Diaz down in Monterey area, just like, I want to get connected to somebody. It's like, one guy once said, if you want to get to know God, call Dave Diaz because he and God are on a first name basis. He'll connect you. God may not know you, but he'll introduce you to him.
He'll introduce to him. Oh, I see it.
So interesting. What are we not covering that's something to close out here with reminder or an encouragement for people to really commit to authentic relationships where you sincerely care?
For me, David, what I would remind everybody is that, hey, listen, it's always about the people. I mean, business comes and goes, it evolves and changes. You have to care, you have to engage. The challenge I think we face in the current world environment is, once again, as I like to call it, the wild, wild world, is everybody's looking for easy buttons, and there's nothing about a relationship that's easy. You have to invest, you have to take the time. And by the way, you're going to have some that don't work. So, there's certain people I don't hang out with anymore. I mean, it's not that I don't like them or they don't like me, but we don't have similar beliefs, similar ethics, similar values. And that's fine. I mean, I would never tell anybody you have to be like me because the world's made up a bunch of different people, but take the time to find the people that you enjoy being around, that you are going to help you be better every day, and then in turn help them be better every day. And oh, by the way, while you're doing that, from an MSP standpoint, from a Blackpoint standpoint, I think those are the best people to do business with because, listen, no business has perfect results its entire career. I mean, I spent 35 years inside of one business, and there were many times I look back and think, man, I wish I could do that over again. I always thought in the end we did the right thing for a client or whoever it was. We were very fortunate in that our clients were loyal because we were loyal and gave us the chance to screw up and fix it. And that comes from relationship. And so just be genuine, be authentic, care. Once again, I know you and I get along so well because that's core to our beliefs as human beings, not just from a business standpoint. And there are so many people out there who feel the same way that make it great.
Oh, yeah. No, I definitely agree. And I think it's great. And the other thing I will mention is that another part of the relationship thing is when somebody has something happen that's not good. So in the past 3 months, there's been somebody I knew, I didn't even know him well, but his son died. So you can't say much when that happens, but I still sent a really sorry to hear about it. And then I followed up with a guy who is great, former client, and he was going through a major life challenge. And I just said, hey, because I knew you'd support me. It was late last week. I said, hey, can I drive down? Can I take you out to breakfast or lunch? Take you out to coffee? I just want to be there to support you. And he said, I'm just not seeing anybody right now. I can't. And I said, well, I'm here for you, and I meant it. Right. I mean it. If you don't mean it, don't do it. Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. So, okay, well, Mike, I don't know that you want people contacting you, but you probably do because you love everybody contacting you, but you have no time. But you're at different events. Mike, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, best way is always, I'm a huge LinkedIn person, so you can find me on LinkedIn. It's, The slash is my basically first initial last name, Estep. So I've been on LinkedIn for that many years. And then, once again, anybody can email me at mestep@blackpointcyber.com, and that would be MESTEP, both in LinkedIn and Blackpoint. No, I listen back to what Michael Kraft always tells me. You can't have enough friends. So
yeah,
I love talking to people. I told somebody the other day, I don't care whether you do business with me or not. I mean, I would like to help your business. I would like to help you if I can. And then if a byproduct becomes you want to buy something like Blackpoint, that's great. I mean, because listen, it's a small world. It's a very small industry, and our time around it is just very limited. So yeah, I don't care if anybody reaches out to me, and you're exactly right. I love talking to people.
No, and that's what I loved. I saw you at an event recently. I think you mentioned it, where you just went and talked about M&A, and you didn't talk Blackpoint. And I love the fact that you gave me, I asked you before I came on board, you may remember, I said, well, if somebody wants to talk to me about how to hire or manage, develop, retain their people, their company culture, is that okay? You said, oh yeah, go for it. And so we get to be just out there helping people. And if it turns into business, great. But if it doesn't, it's very fulfilling to do that. And my email is drussell@blackpointcyber.com, 2 S's, 2 L's. So reach out. We'd love to help. Yep. And thanks for being here. And thank you, Mike, for joining me.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It was fun, and look forward to doing more of these.